video, I'll discuss removed or deprecated features and functionality in Server 2016. At some point, we have to let go of the past to make way for new technological advancements. And that's exactly what Microsoft is doing with Server 2016. In the past, we would use the File Replication Service, or FRS, to replicate folder content between servers. But now, that's been deprecated, so instead we would use DFSR, or Distributed File System Replication. Here in Server Manager under the Tools menu, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the DFS Management tool, where on the left, under Replication, I can see Domain System Volume. So, the sysvol on domain controllers is replicated using DFSR now instead of the old file replication service. We could configure this previously, but it wasn't enabled by default, certainly not in Server 2003 and 2008. They used file replication service instead of DFSR to replicate the sysvol folder. Under the Tools menu, I'm going to go ahead and launch the Share and Storage Management tool. Now, in the past, we would use this to look at our storage subsystem and to manage our shared folders. However, now that I launch it in Server 2016, I get an error. It tells me that it can be used to manage Server 2008 and Server 2008 R2, but for Server 2012 and later, I should be using the Server Manager tool. So I'm going to go ahead and close this tool, and in Server Manager on the left, I can click File and Storage Services, where, for example, I could click Shares to view my shared folders on this system, and under the Tasks dropdown, I could also define a new shared folder. So we would use this instead of the old Share and Storage Management snap-in tool. In the past, we could use the Security Configuration Wizard to create a set of security standards to establish a minimum baseline of accepted security configurations, and then we could also use that tool to apply it to other machines. However, the Security Configuration Wizard is now removed. Instead, what we would do is use group policy objects and configure our security settings centrally within group policy. For example, here I might edit my default domain policy, and as was the case in the past, most security settings are under Computer Configuration, under Policies, under Windows Settings, and finally under Security. Note that here in Server 2016 Technical Preview 2, not all functionality for group policy is ready to go and to be tested. In the past, we had the SConfig Utility available for server core installations, and we still have that available if we've installed Server 2016 without the local GUI tools. When we log in locally to Server 2016 without the local GUI tools installed, this is what we get. We get a command prompt, and it looks and feels a lot like Server Core. So even though it's deprecated, it's still there for now, at least in Technical Preview 2. We could type SConfig, and within SConfig, we would then be able to configure some options, such as things like the computer name, or the domain and workgroup association of this host. We could configure remote management, Windows Update. We could configure network settings like an IP address, subnet mask, and so on. Take note, though, that this is unavailable with Nano Server in Server 2016. Nano Server is the headless server where there is no local interface, not even at the command prompt level, nor can we remotely enter a session with Nano Server and use the SConfig utility. Another feature that's been removed is in relation to DHCP and Network Access Protection, or NAP. In Server Manager, I'm going to go to the Tools menu, and I'm going to launch the DHCP Management tool. In the DHCP Management tool, I can expand the server in the left-hand navigator to expose IPv4 and IPv6, so I'll go under IPv4 where I've already got a scope. If I were to right-click on the scope and go into the properties, prior to Server 2016, I would have had a fourth tab here where I could configure NAP enforcement. And what that would let me do is for non-compliant machines connecting to the network, I could assign them to a different subnet. However, we no longer have that fourth tab here in the properties of a DHCP scope. In this video, we discussed removed or deprecated features and functionality in Server 2016.